throughout, pop it in the chat. We will have a bit of a Q&A at the end where you can ask questions if you want to do so at the time. For joining us online today from LSV, we have myself, so my name is Bree. I am the Coordinator of Partnerships and Engagement. We also have Nikki Waghorn, who is our Project Officer, who sits in the Education team, and Jackie Taylor, who is the Manager for Partnerships and Engagement. And we're lucky enough today to be joined by Jeff Adams, who is the statewide swimming coordinator from the Department of Education. So we're all going to be presenting on different things throughout. I'll be talking on the National Swimming and Water Safety Framework and GSPOs. Jeff's going to talk to you about funding and policy and reporting and supports for swimming and water safety programs at your facilities. Nikki will be chatting to you about the LSV toolkit and everything you can find on there. And then Jackie at the end will talk us through the upcoming professional development opportunities for yourself and your swim teachers, as well as how to keep your schools engaged over the next 12 months. So starting off, we're going to look at the National Swimming and Water Safety Framework. So the framework sets out a course structure to enable students to develop the skills, knowledge, understanding, attitudes, and behaviours they need to enjoy a range of aquatic environments safely. So the framework provides 3 benchmarks for children aged 6, 12, and 17, and consists of 8 different strands. Its aim mainly is to inform policymakers and swim schools, but it's also an important resource for parents to understand the lifelong benefits that learning to swim provides for their children. In Victoria, the framework links directly to the Victorian Water Safety Certificate and can also be used to assist in developing swimming and water safety programs. Looking further into it, and I won't go into too much detail with the Swimming Water Safety Framework and all of the information that's in it, but as you can see, there's 3 progressions per strand at each benchmark level. The benchmark levels, so the 6-year-old is the fundamental stage, 12-year-old's the acquisition stage, and the 17-year-old is the application stage. I'll give you a quick minute to have a look at those ones. So they're the first 4 strands there on the left-hand side. If I scooch forward, those are the next 4 strands. So the swimming and water safety in the Victorian curriculum, in a minute I will hand you over to Jeff, who will talk to you everything from the Department of Education and funding. However, just to touch on the curriculum element, the Victorian curriculum was implemented in 2017. Sorry, swimming and water safety was implemented in 2017 and is to be taught as part of the curriculum in all schools. Why they introduced it was to increase the knowledge and skills relating to survival swimming and basic water safety, as it can significantly reduce a child's risk of drowning. And this role of the school, the role of the school in playing in this is vital to help in the drowning statistics reduction for children. And the curriculum requirements, so the Victorian Health and PE curriculum contains knowledge, skills and understanding for swimming and water safety. So again, that's a very high level, and what the breakdown of those is, I believe there's a curriculum change coming or has hit. Yeah, has hit. So you can find further information, I think, through VACA on the Victorian Association.
I'll share a link.
There you go. Jackie's going to share a link on that one. And then you can read more onto what the new curriculum and how it fits to your swimming programs. And finally, I'm sure you're all very familiar with the Victorian Water Safety Certificate. So the Victorian Water Safety Certificate aligns directly to the 12-year-old benchmark. So this is a tool that monitors Victorian students' levels and data and assists in determining program and future funding. So it's important to note that any Victorian student from foundation to year 10, that's what the Victorian curriculum covers for swimming and water safety, can be awarded the VWC. They don't have to be in grade 6 to achieve this. So if they hit it earlier or they hit it after, they are still welcome to achieve the VWSC. Using the QR code on screen, you can find out more information. And I believe Jackie may have just popped a link in the chat for that one that you can have a look at after the webinar if you're unfamiliar with the VWSC or want to touch up your knowledge on it. Everything you need to know is there, including how to upload, all the resourcing that's available, anything you might need regarding VWSC. I think that is everything from me for now. I'm going to hand over to Jeff, who is, like I said earlier, the statewide swimming coordinator for the Department of Education. Jeff, if you'd like to turn your camera and microphone on and start sharing.
All right. Well, I'm just going to, have you got my slides in your pack? Because I can just take control.
I don't have your slides in the back.
Oh, you've just got my slides
there.
there.
Just that main one there.
Cool. I will jump on. Hi, folks. Let's fix this up. Thanks for having me. So, yeah, as Bree said, I will, not my screen. There we go. So as Bree said, I'm the statewide swimming coordinator for the Department of Education. And by the way, we're using PowerPoint Live today. So any of the links that I have on my screen, you'll just be able to click directly on if you like. And as Jackie said, we'll share these slides afterwards. So I'm just going to take you through a little bit about our rationale and our background in what the department sort of sees as the priorities and how we support swimming in schools and water safety. And so the funding that's provided from the department for swimming and water safety in schools is delivered so that every Victorian government primary, specialist and English language schools and Catholic primary schools, so most of the primary school students in the state, have the opportunity to do two things. Firstly, learn how to swim, and secondly, develop lifelong skills in water safety to reduce the risk of drowning and injury. So we know how important that is, particularly after the last few years of COVID, and we've got this cohort now, which I'm sure you're experiencing, that are less skilled and aware around water. So the funds for the swimming component of swimming in schools are provided directly to the government schools through their regular funding channels that we have, and the Catholic schools receive it through the Catholic Education Council of Victoria. So we provide the funding to CECV and they pass it on to the Catholic schools. And I'll talk to you a bit more about the detail of that funding in a little bit. And so this year, 2025, as we do for most years, but this year's really, we're just trying to get as many young people in the water as possible. That's really the aim for what we're trying to do. And we've got some extra funding for some water safety stuff this year as well, which I will talk about in a little bit. So as Bree said, the swimming and water safety is embedded right across the F to 10 curriculum, foundation to 10. Most of the swimming in school stuff happens between prep and year 6, as you'd be aware, but we do have some extra funding this year to provide some water safety programs for years 7 through to 10. And the version 2 of the curriculum, which goes is live at the moment, but it's not mandatory. So it'll be mandatory starting next year for schools to use. So there's a bit of a transition period for them to be doing that. And so at the moment, some schools are using it. Some schools will still be trying to work out how to do that. But in the version 2 of the curriculum, which we'll talk about, there is a stronger presence of aquatics and water safety in there, including a bit of extra in the year 7 to 10, which is really fantastic to get that happening. And as Bree also took us through, the water safety certificate, which is there as a really good baseline of ability and a good guide for you and your staff to kind of get that across and work out where the students might need to be at. And where the swimming and water safety programs and education is guided by a couple of these policies and documents. And Jackie's already put in the chat the link to the Swimming in Schools page. This is a companion page here, the Swimming and Water Safety Education page, which is the schools.vic and Swimming and Water Safety Education. So check them both out together. The first one is a really good overview of what's covered in schools and some useful resources to help with planning. So if you get teachers contacting you wanting to know how to get everything sorted, send them here. That gives them a really nice sort of central spot to go, okay, this is what you have to do. And then the Policy and Advisory Library, the PAL policy, these two links, the first one, the policy one, provides really good curriculum links. So it helps teachers go, oh, okay, these are the bits of the curriculum that I need to teach, and this is how I can do it through swimming and water safety. And then the second one is some really nice, the guidelines have really nice information on swimming and water safety and sort of some of the safety things that you need to, like the risk management planning and that sort of thing. So three really good links there to make sure, to make sure that's all underway. So we provide the funding to schools, but then the schools decide on how they'd like to spend it and how they want to run their programs. So they don't have to do exactly what we tell them. There are some guidance and the policy kind of says you need to do X, Y, and Z in terms of what the students need to learn, but how they learn it is really up to the schools. And so you would be aware, like some schools do very traditional things like a 5 or 10 day or term-long swimming and water safety program at a pool. Some of them choose to do some open water learning at different venues, or some of the water safety aspects can be done in the classroom. So you might do some dry land programs at your pool. You could actually think to do them at the school and send a couple of teachers there. It's a really nice sort of segue to get your teachers familiar with the students and the students familiar with your teachers. So when they come to the pool, particularly for the first time, if they're a little nervous, this might be a really good way of getting them a bit more comfortable before they go. And if a 5 or 10 day swimming and water safety program isn't possible, there are lots of other options as well. So we know that in regional Victoria, it's a bit tricky because pools, particularly outdoor pools, aren't open for the entire year, and you might need to do some intensive stuff, or you might need to do it completely differently. So you could run some water safety programs at where it's not a pool, somewhere else, or you might do some intensive 2 to 3 hour swim lessons, run them back to back, and just do some kind of think out of the box kind of stuff. And several schools do some water safety programs while they're on school camp, because there might be a pool or a lake or be near a beach. So lots of different ways to think a bit out of the box. So we talked about funding earlier. These next couple of slides are just giving you the bit more detail on that. So the funding for swimming in schools is ongoing. So it's every year we're going to have this funding available. It's not something that we need to reapply for as a government department. It's always going to be there. And the funding is the rules around the funding say that it can be used for instruction, entry into the pool, and transport. So the whole program can be used for it. Most of the time, though, the funding that we provide won't cover all the costs, and I'll talk about that next. So it just contributes to the cost of delivering the program, not the entire program. So this is the breakdown of the funding that is provided and how we calculate it. So for government schools, it's calculated on the total number of primary school students they have enrolled each year, and they receive, for metro schools, they receive $40 per student per year, and regional schools $48, acknowledging that they might be further away, it might be harder for them to get there. And specialist schools and English language schools receive $235 per student and $270 respectively. And if a school, there are lots of small schools. I think there are about 100 schools in Victoria with enrolments less than 50 students, something like that. That was from data from a couple of years ago. And so if the minimum enrolments mean that the school would get less than $2,000, so if they only have a few students and they're only going to receive $1,500, they actually get a base level of $2,000 to make sure that the students can get swimming. And I said that the payment doesn't cover everything. As you know, the $40 isn't going to go far when you're trying to run a program and get them in a bus and get them to the pool and so forth. So schools may request voluntary financial contributions because the swimming is part of the curriculum and has to be delivered by the school. The school has to cover the cost of it if the parents aren't able to pay. So they're covered there by the parent payment policy. So the schools are allowed to ask for voluntary payments, and most of the time that the parents would pay. So that's the funding aspect. There is also some assistance available for students that don't have the funds available. So families, particularly impacted by the cost of living issues at the moment. So if they can't afford bathers, for example, then there's the Affordable School Uniforms Program, which is delivered by State Schools Relief, and they have an amazing program here where eligible students can jump on and order relevant swimwear for their needs, so they can actually get into the pool and get to swimming. So they can, the schools can make applications on behalf of the students, and the schools will be able to guide the students through the State Schools Relief Program. So it's really, really good stuff. So if you get schools, or if you're a school coming to you and say, we've got a bunch of kids that can't do it because they don't have bathers, they can't afford them, send them this way. It's very useful. Schools also need to make sure they report. So any teachers here today need to make sure you report through Cases 21 on how much they've spent and the attendance, and that can really help us with future funding. Also make sure that we are delivering the programs in the right areas, and so on. So yeah, really useful to do. Excuse me. It helps us immeasurably. So that's it from me. Here are my contacts, so you can get in touch anytime by email or the phone, and that I can answer swimming related questions. If you have sort of basic excursion questions about ratios of students to teachers, all sorts of things, the Policy and Advisory Library team is the School Operations and Governance Unit, and they look after all the PAL documents and the guidelines, the swimming and water safety guidelines, which are there that help teachers plan swimming and water safety programs in schools. So they are there to help with all of that. So yeah, I'll be around for questions a bit later on, but that's it for the minute.
Thanks, Jeff. That was great. And like Jeff said, he will be around for questions if you do have any throughout the webinar, or we'll do a bit of a Q&A at the end if you wanted to save them till then, or pop them in the chat. Okay, I'm just going to get my screen back up. Oh, there we go. Okay. So we've been lucky enough, Jackie and I, over the last couple of weeks to really spend some time in the Aquatic Industry Services team, and they have been kind enough to give us all this information on GSPOs and code of practice. And I think that whilst that screen looks very overwhelming with information, it's super important for swim schools and swim school management. So we are lucky enough to have been joined by Claire online today, who is happy to answer any questions that you have throughout this webinar. She is one of our aquatic industry specialists. So I will share this information with you, but Claire will be there to answer the questions if you do need. So firstly, the GSPO, so this is a requirement for a subscription, but is the national recognised industry standard. So all public pools and aquatic facilities should have their way for staff to access this resource. Whereas the Code of Practice, on the other hand, is available for free on ALICEV's website and is Victoria's public pool specific. So the GSPO covers the national level, whereas the Code of Practice is for Victorian public pools. And interestingly, the code, which is what the arrow is pointing to there, stating that a public pool is considered even one that runs private learn to swim lessons. So even if they don't have access to, like the public don't have access to the facility, or it's only marked for learn to swim, it is still considered a public pool and therefore follows the Code of Practice at all times. So the GSPO, what's in that? So the GSPO has several main topics, including anything from swimming pool design and incident management to training qualifications and child safety. However, there is a whole specific area within the GSPO that does cover swimming and water safety programs, and it goes into further detail about staff requirements and the additional information there. It goes through training requirements, health and fitness requirements. As you can see, the list goes on of things that you can get there. It also answers the most common questions around the safe operation of a Learn to Swim program and is a fantastic reference guide to maintaining industry best practice. So the GSPO is a web-based resource, and the great part about it being web-based is it allows for changes to be rolled out in a timely manner and alerts to check any updates or changes to the provided subscribers. So yeah, it's a great resource, and if you don't have access to it, highly recommend getting yourself access into the GSPO. And I believe Jackie has popped a link into the chat for that one. Further to that, in the GSPO is the TQ2 requirements. So some important information regarding the supervision of your swimming and water safety programs can be found in this section. And what this is referring to, again, very wordy, but what it's saying here is that a staff member holding the minimum requirements listed there, so the supervision of patrons, the performing water rescues, provides CPR and provide first aid, is a requirement that this is the minimum training that they have in a facility. So they don't have to necessarily be actively lifeguarding if you are running a private Learn to Swim centre, but it's important that at least someone in the facility has this training and this qualification and can respond in an appropriate and timely manner in the event of any incident. Again, if you have any questions, Claire is around to answer those regarding supervision or GSPO or code of practice, anything you might want to know. Yeah, pop them in the chat, save them for later, any way you want to go about it. Okay, moving into swim teacher retention framework, and I know there's a few faces on this who have had some really great influence into the swim teacher retention framework, and it's a really great piece of work. So the swim teacher retention framework officially launched in March 2024, so nearly coming up a year. And it was developed by the Learn to Swim Steering Committee. So the Learn to Swim Steering Committee, I think, is 20 people, and it had 3 main objectives. So the increase of retention of swim teachers, reducing the overall swim teacher shortage, and reducing learning to swim participant waitlist numbers. It targets 5 key stages of the employment cycle. So those stages are the recruitment and onboarding, first 6 months, 6 to 12 months, 1 to 3 years, and then embedded staff members with an additional focus for that area on a mentor program. It is freely available for use for Learn to Swim operators across Victoria, and Jackie will pop a link into the chat for that one. So the framework is practical, it's relevant, collaborative, and highlights key activities that could be undertaken as part of the swim teacher employment lifecycle, thereby providing the foundations for a career path. The aquatic industry, and again, freely available. So it has a suite of assets and resources that you can jump on and have a look at, and really supports your swim teachers across their career lifespan as a teacher. So with the main audiences here, so it's targeted towards swim school managers. It doesn't mean that it's solely for swim school managers. Swim teachers are also welcome to access it and have a look at any of the resources available. But its objectives for swim school managers was to implement the framework to ensure your swim school maintains high standards, enhancing program success and reputation. It's flexible and adaptable, so you can customize strategies based on your teaching staff's unique needs with the framework's flexible approach. These resources are definitely guides and can be adjusted to whatever you might need in your facility. And it's assisting in attracting and retaining top talent. So using the framework as a tool, you can attract and retain top tier teachers, giving your swim school a competitive edge in your aquatic education industry. So some of the resources that you may see or have come across that have been developed are the Swim Teacher Career Pathway, the Why of Swim Teaching, and Managing Burnout. So we encourage you to use and share these assets to promote the swim teacher retention framework through your own teams and networks and within the wider industry. These are just 3 of the main resources. There are plenty more on there that you can jump on and have a look, including employment induction checklists, review checklists, qualification renewals and schedules, and many, many others. So it's a really great tool and a really great resource, and we encourage you to access it and make the most of it within your swim school. Lastly, since its launch, the framework has had over 7,000 visits, and that is mainly through just word of mouth and the additional direct mail. So it's great to see how many of you have already accessed this, and we're hopefully using it within your facilities. For those who haven't accessed it, Jackie has posted the link in the chat, or there is the QR code there on screen that you can scan to have a look at everything that's available, and those resources will continue to be updated and new ones will be added. So keep an eye out for anything new that does come up. Okay, that is me done. I'm going to hand over to Nikki, who is going to talk all things school swimming and water safety toolkit.
Thanks so much, Bree. Can you all hear me up there? Perfect. Okay, so my name is Nikki Waghorn, and I'm the project officer in the education team here at Lifesaving Victoria. We're going to talk about the toolkit. Jackie's going to pop a link to the toolkit in the chat, so please take some time to jump into those resources and have a good look through them after the presentation. The School Swimming and Water Safety Toolkit is funded through the Victorian Government's Water Safety in Schools initiative. The Water Safety in Schools funding allows Lifesaving Victoria to develop resources and directly support the education sector and the aquatic industry, and the toolkit is a part of this. Hopefully, this isn't your first introduction to the toolkit, but if it is, don't worry. There are an enormous amount of resources, information, and programming assistance here, and it's all designed to make your job as someone delivering swimming and water safety messaging a lot easier. We'll move on to the next slide, Bree. Let's have a look at what types of information, resources, and support you can find in here. We'll start with the key messages. In this section, there's lots of information on why swimming and water safety is important. the statistics and reports that support that messaging, and the aims of the programs, and some letter templates that you might find useful for communications with your families. At the tab on the next tab over, we have the curriculum section, where you'll find many of the links to the information that Jeff and Bree have already referred to this afternoon. They went through a lot of information, and you can access the VACA website and the Department of Education website via the toolkit as well. Next page, please, Bree. Thank you. Looking at the other resources on the toolkit, we have targeted resources for specialist schools and English language schools. We have our life-saving education programs that Jeff referred to earlier. Some new updated case studies on how different schools and swim centres design their programs, how they use their funds, and also for schools, how they transport their students. There are in-class resources, including lesson plans, which I'm going to talk to in a little bit, worksheets, activities and videos, lesson plans and assessments, and all kinds of links to the PAL guidelines as well that Jeff referred to. Next page, Bree. Something of particular interest for all you school teachers out there are the Water Safety Fundamental Lesson Plans 2.0 that have recently been added to the toolkit. And these directly align with the newly updated Curriculum 2.0 that Jeff spoke to earlier. They can be found here under Health and PE lesson plans. These their lesson plans, or land-based lesson plans, have been developed to teach water safety knowledge to students within a school classroom or a gymnasium. They're interlinked and connect with various areas of the Victorian Curriculum 2.0. The lesson plans currently on the toolkit range from foundation to level 8 students. We'll go to the next slide. Perfect. Up here, we've got an example of a level 5 and 6 lesson. The learning intention for this lesson is to explore and identify local waterways, beach trips, and beach safety, along with identifying beach and inland safety signs. You can see the success criteria and content description and achievement standards outlined with connections to the Victorian curriculum, including links to the 2 strands, the personal and social and community health strand, and the movement and physical activity strand. The lessons are divided into small activities. They begin with a warm-up activity and then move on to instructions on how to run the activities. Key questions and teaching points are also covered, and these can be discussed with the students anytime before, during, or after the activity. Up on the first, sorry, go back, Bree. On the first image there, you can see the little VWSC badge on the bottom right corner. This outlines the Victorian water safety knowledge competencies covered off during this lesson. So it's really helpful when you're trying to cover off all your VWSC competencies. As I said, there are many similar lesson plans up to and including Year 8, all available on the toolkit, all free to download and use within your programs. Okay, we can move on now. Thanks, Bree. I just mentioned the VWSC. As Bree touched on earlier, the Victorian Water Safety Certificate describes the specific competencies that should be achieved by the time students finish primary school. We encourage all schools to assess and award their grade 5 students the VWSC. This page here has all the information that you need, the access links and the resources that you need to use, how to order, upload, everything basically that you need to know about the Victorian Water Safety Certificate. If you need any assistance with anything VWSC, we're always happy to help, and there'll be an email for our education team in the chat. Okay, next one. Here we have the Kids Zone, and the Kids Zone is all about Swim City. hope that some of you have played Swim City. If you haven't, I'm going to issue a call out to you to, when you jump off this call, to jump into Swim City and have a look at it. It is an interactive online game-based resource that's a super fun way to teach water safety to kids. A lot of teachers are using it in the classroom, wet weather days, any time that they've got a little bit of space to fill. It's also super great to roll out before you do your water-based program. We launched Swim City 2.0 at the end of last year. It includes a new farm module that was developed in collaboration with KidSafe Victoria. It's already received incredible feedback from kids and teachers alike. But rather than me talk you through Swim City, let's watch this little Swim City video that's going to give you a quick overview. That's the next slide, Bree. Hopefully our video is going to work.
Being around water is part of everyday life in Australia. Whether it be at the beach, backyard pools, rivers and creeks.
Look fun? I think you should jump into it. Okay, team, that's it from me. The toolkit has been developed to provide free, useful and expert resources to swim schools and schools. So please make the most of it and have a good look around when you get the chance. I'm going to pass it back to, I think Jackie's up next, and she's going to take you through upcoming swim teacher professional development and keeping your schools engaged.
Thanks, Nikki. That was great. And like she said, if you haven't had a chance to jump into Swim City, it is a very fun game, even for adults, I will admit. So get in, share it with your students and have a play yourself. I will now hand over to Jackie, who is going to talk all things upcoming swim teacher PD and keeping your schools engaged.
All right. You need to turn your volume down. Thank you. So we don't have an echo. Hi, everybody. Looks like we might even finish today on time for everyone. So that'll be good. I will keep it short, the next couple of slides. But we just wanted, of course, to promote everything else we've got going on for the rest of this year. We've finally got our calendar put together. You can either use the QR code to head to our professional development booking page. Once I've finished up here, I'll quickly pop a link into the chat to head you there. We do have another webinar later in the year. We've also got a Swim Teacher Professional Development Day in April, which is a full day of in-person workshops. So some dry will be at the pool and in the pool. So if you've got some swim teachers who might need a bit of a refresher, a bit of some inspiration and some networking opportunities, I suppose, have a look at Aquatactics running in April. We also have a Inland Waterway Forum in May. A couple of days before that, we've got our think tank, which is always really popular. It's limited numbers to that, but it does involve coming into LSV. You do get scones, so definitely worth the trip in. And we always get really great feedback about that day. So Tuesday, the 20th of May, our adaptive programming workshop. We'll leave the rest of the stuff till later in the year to promote. Bree, I will get you to scoot forward for me, please. We have a little bit of a bonus for everybody today that's hung around till the end of the video. We've put together a schools engagement calendar for you, so you can download this. I'll pop the link in the chat as soon as I come off camera. And it's just a bit of an idea for you to keep engaged with your schools throughout the year. It's not hard work. There's some really easy things in there that you can plan during January when you're quiet or whenever it works for you, just to keep in touch with them and to keep them doing water safety activities throughout the year, not only thinking that water safety is a 2-week event or a 5-day event, however long they come swimming with you for. We'd really love to see students practicing all year round. I have got Swim City in there. It's a really good one that you can send a link out and encourage, particularly during summer, for kids to play, particularly if they don't have their swimming lessons till the end of the year. But there's lots of activities in there. I'll pop a link in. You can grab it, do whatever you like with it, change it up, use the links. But I really encourage you to stay engaged with your schools all year round and get the students practicing water safety more than just once a year. I think that's it from me, Bree. Thank you very much. I'll hand you back over to Bree.
Thank you, Jackie. And like she said, we are really hoping to keep schools engaged all year round with water safety skills. So anything that you can share with your schools in the area or the schools that come to your facility is definitely a benefit. Okay, that wraps up most of the content for today. So I'd love to open the floor up to any questions that you might have. Feel free to pop up your team's hand or just turn off your microphone and ask a question, or pop it in the chat if you do have anything. I don't think anything's come in so far in the chat, but by all means, if you have something now, we've got all the experts on the line. This is the time. So yeah, if you do have anything to ask, by all means, I'll just wait a minute or two.
If that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
So I'm actually a teacher in Robinvale in Victoria, and I'm trying to organise a swim program for within our school. And I've got oh, sorry, I've lost you.
We can still hear you.
Oh, that's good.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
My whole computer's shut down. I was like, oh no. I'm having a lot of challenges because we're quite rural. I've got about 10 staff that I've recently put through their swim teacher training course, but they now need to do shadow teaching in order to teach classes. But we don't have really a teacher to teach them. So I guess it's more of a shout out. Is there any support that can be offered to get a swim teacher here for 4 or 5 weeks to help train up the rest of our teachers so that we can then manage it ongoing in the future?
It's a really great question, and Jeff, I'm not sure if you'll have anything to add to this, but Jackie has just popped her email in the chat. She will be able to give you any information on this one. So there is,
We'd love to help out.
yeah, we'd love to help out. We'd love to support. And Jackie and the team will definitely be able to give you some answers to that if you want to shoot them an email.
Thank you. That's much appreciated.
No worries. Does anyone else have a question? Okay. No worries. Move. So just before you go, we have a QR code there on the screen if you don't mind to complete a very short survey for us so that we can keep improving our services. Jackie's also just popped it in the chat. And it will also be emailed out with your certificate. So if you don't have time to do it now, you need to run. Yeah, we'd love your feedback at any stage to keep improving these webinars and make them what you need to be moving forward. To learn more about any of the curriculum requirements, programs, resources, anything that's been mentioned today, please get in contact with us. And I'm sure Jeff will be more than happy to hear from you. So you can contact him with his details. If you aren't sure of them, please reach out to us. I think Nikki's just posted the education email in the chat as well. So any of the above contact emails, you can reach out and we will all be more than happy to help. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining today. It's been a pleasure hosting, I guess, more than anything. Thank you to our experts in the industry that have joined us. Jeff, thank you particularly for joining us from the Department of Education. And I look forward to seeing you hopefully all at a webinar in the future.
Thanks, team.
Thanks, everyone.